All right, guys, Christmas came early. I woke up to discover that there has been an announcement with Stormgate. I know that Frost Giant's been pretty quiet for a while. The video was uploaded to YouTube, so we're going to go ahead and hop into this video and take a look at what they've got to tell us about Stormgate. Oh, and by the way, if you are interested in news in the future about Stormgate, as well as casting on the game, discussions on strategies, and discussions on esports in that game, please do subscribe to this channel. Give it a like, turn on the alert bell. That helps us in the algorithm so more people can discover content like this. Because when this game comes out, assuming it's good, and I think it probably will be good, we're going to be doing a lot of content on it.
It's been about 6 months since we announced Stormgate, and we want to provide an update on our development. We're actually building our own game engine, and no, that doesn't mean that we're not using Unreal Engine 5. Unreal Engine 5 is powering all of the graphics and sound and input, provides the pathways for all of the art that we put into the game. But the gameplay itself is driven by a piece of technology that we're developing called Snowplay. Snowplay is a custom developed engine for real-time strategy. It is a set of logic that is being built exclusively by our team here at Frost Giant, designed to handle the high unit counts and the low latency networking that are necessary to facilitate a really great real-time strategy game. You're going to hear...
Okay, so right off the bat, I'm sure you guys already knew they were using Unreal 5, which is, that engine's crazy. There's so much stuff you can do with that. So that's obviously cool. But the fact that they're making their own, I guess you could say, engine within that, which I guess is called Snowplay, this actually relieves a lot of concerns I know I had and a lot of other people had about the game from a playability standpoint. You know, there are actually a lot of RTS games out there, but most of them can't be played on a competitive level, not just because of balance issues, but also because you know, units will like overlap with each other. It's hard to make them into the kind of objects you need them to be, where they can interface with each other in such a way where micro is possible, and that the game itself can actually handle all those objects moving at once. And frankly, I mean, the three big RTSs, StarCraft 1, Warcraft 3, and StarCraft 2, a huge part of what makes them playable is the fact that they're actually built on a proper engine. Now, of course, Age of Empires 4, when that first came out, there were some complaints about, you know, micro and kind of how the units interfaced and some frustrations there. I guess Microsoft is already fixing that, but the fact that right out of the gate they're going to be putting something in place so that everything can operate right is a really good sign. I imagine this is expensive and takes a lot of time. This might be why we haven't actually seen that much in-game footage, but you know, as long as it's somewhere in between the control of StarCraft 1, probably better than the control of StarCraft 1, but kind of like that, Warcraft 3, StarCraft 2, perhaps even an improvement on StarCraft 2, that is going to be, I think, absolutely a good thing. Because we want to have an RTS game where we can manipulate the units and move them around in an environment. So I think the fact that they have the building blocks in place before we even see much footage of the game is definitely a good thing.
Today from James Anhalt, our chief architect, who is leading the development of Snowplay. And you're also going to hear from our art director, Jesse Brophy, who is leading the design for each of the factions or races that are going to be featured in our game.
By the way, before we go any further, I just remembered something. I feel like obviously StarCraft 2 is the cleanest in-game engine, but I do feel like the way that you can micro StarCraft 1 units, there's a little bit more to it. There was somebody, I think it was a Swedish guy, that figured out how to make StarCraft 2 units move like they do in StarCraft 1. If somebody could find that for me, I would love to do a whole separate video piece on that. But it's like the slide mechanic, basically. It gives more micro options there. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. Anyways.
Snowplay is the deterministic game engine that we built to provide us with fast, smooth, responsive RTS gameplay. Snowplay is all about making Stormgate more fun. The fun in the game comes from how responsive the game is and how it just feels to play it. Unreal Engine 5 provides a client-server networking model, but we require a networking model that supports a large number of units. And Snowplay gives us this deterministic engine where we can just simulate the game based on the player inputs. Snowplay allows us to simulate Stormgate
Whoa,
at
whoa,
60
whoa,
hertz.
whoa, whoa. All right, so traditional client server, unit states, transmit, process, display. Oh, that's very interesting. Okay, so I guess normally, I don't know if I'm going to read this correctly, but I guess this would make it much more responsive, which would be good in general. I guess normally it has the units, you tell the unit what to do, and then the unit does that, and then it transmits it and displays it, where I guess the input would come first, which would be optimized, and it would send that information out there and it would display it. So I guess this would make things a little bit more efficient. Interesting. Okay.
Player inputs. Snowplay allows us to simulate Stormgate at 60 hertz.
Keep in mind, this would actually matter a lot to regions that you might not think of when you think of RTS. Like, I'm in Korea. We don't really have to worry about lag. I'm sure, you know, people with fast internet in the U.S. and stuff like that wouldn't have to worry about it. But in other parts of the world, Southeast Asia, I'm sure, and other places where gaming's picking up, Latin America as well, this would probably be very helpful.
For smooth, responsive gameplay feel. It'll be the most responsive RTS game I've ever worked on, and I've worked on a few great ones. Rollback allows us to reduce the lag a player feels playing the game over the internet.
Excuse me.
Rollback works by allowing us to simulate the game even in the absence of player input. And if we receive input later, we can roll back to that time that the input happened and then simulate forward really quickly to catch back up. Snowplay allows us to mass spectate
hold on.
game.
There's a
really
lot to
quickly
unpack
catch
here.
Back up.
Okay, so some of you guys might not have heard of Rollback netcode, but this is fairly new. And this stemmed from the issue that fighting games had, where they were unable to kind of have the same kind of online play that like we've had for like over 2 decades, or FPS games have had for over, since the very beginning of FPS games. Okay, so I'm going to try to explain this, but I'll actually leave a link in the YouTube video, a portion of this. It's Core A Gaming Rollback. It explains Rollback netcode, but basically what it is it's and again, watch the video, don't just take my word for it, but it's like a predictive feature that helps with when the two, when the two players, their computers are communicating with each other. Instead of having these moments of kind of hard lag where things don't move, it'll sort of do this predictive element that does not necessarily, it doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen, but it'll smooth it over. Oh, I'm explaining this so horribly. There's a video on it, though. It's good. Core A Gaming Rollback netcode. This is definitely something that's exciting to see implemented into RTS games. It's going to be interesting to see, the impact of this. But basically what this means is it's going to be smoother and look better, even if it is slightly laggy.
Snowplay allows us to mass spectate games where the viewer can rewind.
Yeah, non-blocking corrective network stuff, says Dyson Returns. Thank you.
Have instant replays, and then fast forward back to where they were originally. Because Snowplay is deterministic, we can mass spectate a live game by broadcasting just the player's actions to the viewers and re-simulate the game on their computers. Snowplay enables designers to iterate quickly.
Sorry, I'm stopping so much, guys. So this is, I think League of Legends had this for a while, but basically there should be a way that you can actually spectate a game inside the client. So as much as we're excited about like Twitch numbers and YouTube metrics and stuff like that, there should be a way that you can watch a live game happen, and as you're watching it, it'll send the information to your computer so you can actually watch it like you were inside the game observing it. So like imagine that we had World Finals going on. You could have the stream open on one monitor, let's say, so you're watching the commentary, but on your other monitor, you could easily have it in-game, you're clicking around and looking at stuff, or maybe you could even lock on to an in-player view. I'm not sure if that's what they're saying you could do here, but that's a really good thing, because so much of learning how to play an RTS really does come down to, kind of being there and kind of being inside the game and seeing how it's functioning. So this is exciting stuff. It's good that they're getting a lot of this interfacing stuff right out of the gate, because otherwise, if they make an RTS game and it feels a certain way and they have to play it later, that would be a nightmare. So they're definitely off to the right start.
Computers. Snowplay enables designers to iterate quickly by compiling all the game logic into WebAssembly.
Oh, Dota does this as well? Okay, I didn't know. That would make sense, yeah.
So that they can iterate while never leaving the game. This also unlocks the potential for modders to be able to iterate quickly and reach the same level of polish.
The art team's
little closing thought there on that. StarCraft 1, part of the reason why it got so big in Korea, besides, you know, what you've heard, like PC cafes, and that there was a ban on Japanese games at the time in Korea, so they were all playing American games, and it wasn't a big console culture. Part of what made that big was that a lot of people played use map settings. Now, StarCraft 2 has the arcade feature, but even in my experience with both of the games, I did not tinker with the arcade feature as much. I feel like the way that it was implemented, it I don't know, it was like not as... The whole StarCraft 2 interface when you start the game was fine for someone like me because I just wanted a ladder and I wasn't social in StarCraft 2. But for most people, they probably want to play mini games. They probably want to have the options to experiment with stuff, and especially if you're modding too. If we end up with like... And keep in mind, Dota 1 was a Warcraft 3 mod that Blizzard basically neglected, and then Valve dumpstered Blizzard and just made Dota 2, and you know, there you go. But you know, it's always possible with an engine like this they could make some game we haven't thought of, and be big, and that would just be huge for gaming. So I think it's good they're keeping the modding part of the game, you know, big factor. You know, it's always possible that there's some game that's made inside of the engine that's even bigger than the game itself. I mean, that's literally what happened with Dota and Warcraft. So good thing they're doing that.
been focused on a lot of things in the last 5 months. We wanted to get a unified visual vision for both the Resistance and the Infernal host. We're also doing a lot of work on our core technology inside of Unreal, as well as a great deal of environment work for our terrain and our cliff systems. We're calling the human faction the Resistance, and they're humanity's last line of defense against the Infernal invaders.
Sorry, just a quick question in the chat here. Do you think Stormgate will have a BattleNet-style chat, or will they just off-put communication to a Discord service? I don't know. That's a good question. It does seem like Discord is sort of... everybody kind of lives on Discord, right? I would hope they would have some kind of social features in there. I don't think there's any harm in having that. Oh, I guess Frost Giant Suit is actually in the chat. Welcome. We will absolutely have a Discord. I think that's not what they're asking. I think I think what they're talking about is that, you know, is it going to be more of a social feel inside the game? Inside the game client is what I mean. Or maybe you integrate Discord inside the client. I'm not sure. One thing I do hope they have is, like, inside the client, they have links to tournaments. I have a video that I did on a replay marketplace idea. I hope, you know, where pro gamers can sell their replays. I hope that they have links to Twitch streams. I hope they have Twitch drops. I hope they basically build this big ecosystem where everything is helping everything else kind of grow, and everything is kind of tethered together. Because one of the weird parts, I mean, again, this is early on in StarCraft, but you have to, like, go outside of the game to find the esports stuff, where really you should just be encouraged inside the client to do that. So maybe even having streaming integration inside the client would be good. Anyway, sorry, we're going back on artwork here. I got to stop crossing my legs.
They're
My hips are
scrappy
killing
group.
me.
They've preserved knowledge about advanced robotics and scientific know-how, and this gives us a lot of options for mech designs, as well as creative exploration of future technologies. Recently, the concept team took about 6 weeks to focus on the visual development of the Resistance. We didn't have design briefs, and none of these are specifically going to go into game. It's just us exploring visually what the faction's going to look like. This first image...
What are the 3 factions? We can't call them races anymore because it's 2023, but the factions are Resistance, and then I think we haven't seen the 3rd faction. Is that right? Infernals. Only 2 so far. Okay. Let me go back a second here. I haven't revealed the 3rd. Okay.
Specifically going to go into game. It's just us exploring visually what the faction's going to look like. This first image is by Leah, one of our concept artists, and it's just her exploring stuff that she kind of wanted to look into visually. She got inspiration from Buzz Lightyear and F-14 Tomcats, and this is the result of that.
So this looks like a Marine. Obviously, there are wings on the back, so maybe it can be upgraded to fly. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm getting Terran vibes here. I like the artwork. Yeah, I mean, it looks good. I don't have much else to say. To be honest with you guys, one thing I don't really worry about in a game like this is the art, because it's, former Blizzard. The art's always looked pretty good.
And F-14 Tomcats, and this is the result.
Plane Marine.
This next image is one created by Timmy, one of our concept artists as well.
So this looks kind of like a Wraith to me. Again, I mean, we need to see, like, maybe this is only air to ground or something. I mean, but it looks good. It looks good. I did see the small amount of in-game footage they had, and it looked very colorful and bright, which I think is good. And this footage was released a while ago. I'm sure if you just YouTube it, you can find it. But I like that the colors are very bright. I do think in StarCraft 2, it's easy to forget if you look at the game for a long time, but it's a lot of, like, dark blue and purple and kind of deep red. And I think it would be nicer to have a little bit more of a array of colors here. So I like the blue with the orange and, the gray and everything. It looks good.
And it's his take on what a resistance flying unit could look like. This final unit is called the Gigamech, created by John Ryder. We don't know if this mech will ever make it into the game.
Gigamech.
Artistically, we wanted to explore what it could look like if there was an end game unit, something that was so massive when it came onto the battlefield that one side was going to have to win over the other.
This one looks really cool. I like it. From what I just gathered, this might be like a unit that you get like a mothership. It'd be interesting to see how this would play out in multiplayer. I do think there is this sort of, I guess from a developer standpoint, kind of an obsession of having like a mega endgame unit, because that's always exciting and cool from that standpoint. As a player, I always find like these units turn out to be lackluster and not that exciting in a multiplayer experience. I mean, the mothership, when it came out, everybody would be super hyped, but then it really didn't do that much. But, I mean, we could see what they can do with it. Again, he mentioned this may not come into fruition. I don't know if he said in multiplayer or single player. I mean, I guess they probably design a bunch of different stuff. And then, at the end, they kind of see what works.
Make it into the game. But artistically, we wanted to explore what it could look like if there was an end game unit, something that was so massive when it came onto the battlefield.
So it looks like it's a Thor. It also looks like it would be built off of something like this. I don't know what this is, but maybe you need some kind of like a launching pad to get the thing set up. Also, if you look down here at the bottom, it says light mech, multi-fighter mech, and I believe this looks like the kind of Buzz Lightyear-inspired unit down here. I mean, it looks cool. I like the art style, for sure.
One side was going to have to win over the other. The Infernal Host is a violent, warmongering society of alien creatures. They travel through Stormgates, from planet to planet, conquering any life forms that they come across. Anything strong enough to fight back is assimilated into their ranks. Their main purpose is for resources, primarily what we would call life force or anima. Earth has a great deal of anima, which makes it a high-value target to the Infernals. To them, energy equals power. The human faction uses advanced robotics. The Infernals use magic. Just like the Resistance visual development that we did, we also did the same thing for the Infernals. We took 6 weeks to really focus on what the designs are going to be so that we had a unified language for the team. This image is what we're calling the Mist Reaper.
Ooh.
We loved it the second Leah drew it. It, again, was all part of our exploration to go, how do we want to design the Infernals?
Immediately, I look at this and I'm like, I think of how I hunch over. I'm like, I got to get posture like this guy. This looks really cool. One thing to note is that he's got horns here in these two images, left and middle. And then on this one, no horns. So maybe you have to upgrade him. And he gets horns and maybe stops folding his arms. Or maybe there's three iterations of it. I don't know. I'm kind of speculating here. So this looks a lot very Diablo inspired unit, which I'm fine with. Yeah, I mean, I think this looks very cool. Looks like it floats. I don't know if that would have any impact on how it functions as a unit. Like, Archons have different parameters for them on how they, floating units. Like, for instance, an Archon can't set off spider mines, stuff like that. I don't know if that's going to play a role. I don't know if it can float over terrain like water. I'm not so sure, but this looks really cool.
How do we want to design?
And when you look at it, I mean, we're zoomed in, but, if you zoom out, you would easily be able to grab this unit, right, and see it move around. You could have a couple of them moving together, and it wouldn't be confusing.
Infernals. This image is by TJ, again, one of our concept artists, and he really wanted to explore the structures of the Infernals and what
This really looks like a Blizzard RTS game building. Kind of looks like a little bit of Zerg inspired, kind of some orc from Warcraft inspired. A little bit of undead, I guess, in there too. Looks like this would be a summoning building with a little staircase coming down here. Probably warping, or not warping, I'm such a Protoss player. Probably summoning whatever Infernal unit from wherever, I would assume. So maybe this is like a gateway. Again, we don't know what the mechanics of the game are going to be like. It did sound like Infernal's kind of like Zerg. I would not imagine that this is going to be a reskinned Protoss Terran Zerg. Although, to be honest, as a StarCraft player, I wouldn't fight that either. But, you know, it would be, if this was a gateway kind of unit, or kind of building, excuse me, it would be interesting to see that what seems to be like kind of a Zerg-ish race would then have structures that would summon units. Very interesting.
The shape language.
Either good or bad, by the way. And I mean, I could be totally wrong with what this thing does. This, for all I know, this like upgrades, you know, attack and armor and stuff. I don't know.
Was and what type of materials we could use to explore them. This final image by Tom, one of our concept artists.
Oh, Zergling. Look at those forearms. This guy plays a lot of games.
Is what we're calling the worker right now. We wanted to keep the Infernals very dark and gritty, but there's...
Oh, worker. Sorry, I'm wrong. Not Zergling. So maybe they mine the purple stuff.
Areas where we want to have some charm and levity, and we thought this would be a great place to do it. Again, we don't know if any of these...
I like the cuteness of it. I could see a bunch of these guys running around, mining stuff, getting attacked, running away. It's cute.
Place to do it. Again, we don't know if any of these units will make it into the game. We were just exploring visually as a team.
So that's what we've been working on. I know everybody's eager for some gameplay footage, and we will share some gameplay footage next year before closed testing starts. But in the meantime, I want to wish you a happy holiday on behalf of everyone here on the Frost Giant development team.
Bam. Looks good. I'm sure you guys are in the same spot I'm in, where I would love to see some in-game footage, but if it's not ready, it's not ready. I'm especially excited about the in-game engine. I think that that's a sign that they know that the game has to be played in a certain way. Obviously, like if they come out with a unit that's not good or overpowered or just not useful, if there's a race that's weak, they can fix that, they can patch that. But having the actual bedrock laid out so that the game operates in a certain way, so that you can macro in a certain way, so that you can micro in a certain way, so that you can have massive armies that move cleanly is the most important thing, I think, to start this off. I do wonder how similar the engine is going to operate from StarCraft 2, because StarCraft 2 is obviously the most, even though it's like over 10 years old, it's the most recent RTS from, you know, that kind of vein of Blizzard games. I do feel like, and I've said this before in other videos, but I'll say it here again, I do think that StarCraft 2, as much as they tried to make it accessible to new players, it's actually almost too fast. Like, I don't think we ever need an RTS game that is moving at the speed of StarCraft 2, and especially after they added all the workers, which I thought was going to be better for the game. It turns out I think it actually made it a little bit duller, but overall I feel like the game moves too fast. I would like the units to maybe not bunch up as much as they do in StarCraft 2 either. That seemed to be a thing that I think made fights a little bit less interesting and made splash damage way more of a factor, where splash damage, for instance, in StarCraft 1, is interesting at some moments, and in other moments, if controlled right, has no factor in the game at all. Rollback netcode, very exciting. I mean, it's just, overall, it seems like they're building it in the right direction. Artwork looks cool. And again, we just don't know a whole lot about these races. If I had to say, it seems like Resistance is Terran, Infernal is Zerg. Again, we could see what other inspirations they take from other games, and I don't know, I'm looking forward to it. I did make a video talking about my idea for a replay marketplace, which I will leave a link to in the at the end of this video, and also whether it's in a box somewhere near my face on here or in the description below, you should check out Core A Gaming's explanation of rollback netcode because he was much more articulate than I was trying to talk about it in this video. Thank you for watching. Again, please subscribe. Check out our merch. We've got a lot of cool stuff over at tastelessthreads.com. And join me on my Twitch stream, where you can watch me try to get into S rank. Hopefully I get there before the end of the year. I'm still stuck at A rank right now in StarCraft Remastered. Until the next video, thank you for watching.